Beneath the glittering lights and legendary glamour of Hollywood's golden age lurked a shadowy world few dared to discuss. Forget what you've heard in celebrity interviews tonight. We dive into the darkest corners of classic Hollywood scandals, exposing the top 20 most cruel actresses ever to haunt the silver screen. Their vicious rivalries, secret sabotage, and jaw-dropping betrayals shattered careers and left reputations in ruins. Who was the real monster behind the mask? You won't believe who made this infamous list. #2 will leave you speechless. Miriam Hopkins, known as one of the most cunning and cutthroat actresses of her time, Hopkins made a name for herself, not just through talent, but through sabotage. Director William Wyler, who worked with her on These Three and The Children's Hour, didn't mince words. He called her terribly difficult and flat out said, "You are making me sick." And he wasn't alone in that sentiment. Hopkins had a chilling reputation in the industry, particularly for her fierce jealousy and relentless efforts to steal the spotlight from her co-stars. Her most explosive feud was with Bette Davis, a rivalry that would go down in Hollywood history. During the filming of The Old Maid, Hopkins took pettiness to an art form. She would deliberately move during Davis's close-up shots, forcing multiple retakes and throwing off the rhythm of every scene. Davis later admitted Miriam used every trick in the book, even admitting she learned what not to do by watching her. But it didn't stop there. Hopkins was infamous for pushing writers to rewrite entire scripts just to boost her lines and grab more screen time, even if it meant cutting down the roles of her fellow actresses. If she thought someone else was getting better lighting or more camera attention, she'd unleash a tantrum that could halt production for hours. She wasn't the most remembered name from Hollywood's golden age, but behind the camera, Miriam Hopkins was a storm no one could forget. Despite it all, studios kept casting her. Hopkins had undeniable talent, but her backstage cruelty, controlling demands, and disruptive antics eventually wore thin. As younger, more cooperative actresses emerged, the industry quietly moved on, leaving behind one of its most ruthless divas, Joan Crawford. In the golden age of Hollywood, no actress instilled more fear than Crawford. While the public saw a glamorous star, insiders knew her as a ruthless strategist who built her success by tearing others down. And her cruelty wasn't impulsive, it was methodical. When Crawford sensed a threat, she didn't compete, she destroyed. She had informants across studios feeding her gossip, weaknesses, and vulnerabilities. Then she'd strike. One of her favorite tactics, snatching up film roles not to advance her career but to block younger actresses from gaining momentum. On the set of The Women, she zeroed in on co-star Norma Shearer. Crawford repeatedly interrupted Shearer's lines, moved during her close-ups to ruin the shot, and spread whispers around the studio that Shearer couldn't remember her dialogue. It wasn't just petty, it was war. Years later, during Mommy Dearest, a film ironically exposing her abusive legacy, Crawford allegedly turned her cold gaze on Faye Dunaway. The behind-the-scenes tension was brutal, but Crawford's favorite victims were the ones she pretended to support. She often took rising young actresses under her wing, welcoming them into her home, offering heartfelt advice, and promising to open doors. But once they let their guard down, the sabotage began. She'd feed them damaging advice, push them toward shady connections, and quietly collect secrets to use against them when the time was right. Where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and don't go anywhere, because the most shocking stories and infamous actresses are still to come. Constance Bennett. She once stepped on a crew member's hand during filming and didn't even look back when he screamed in pain. That was Constance Bennett, elegant, rich, and ice-cold. Behind the pearls and perfume was a woman Hollywood feared for reasons that had nothing to do with her talent. At the height of her fame in the 1930s, Bennett was the highest-paid actress in the business, raking in $30,000 a week. And she made sure everyone around her felt it. To her, crew members were invisible. She refused to learn their names, often snapping her fingers and pointing like royalty summoning servants. Anyone beneath her class might as well have been furniture. But Bennett's cruelty wasn't limited to the working class. She had a special disdain for younger actresses, especially ones who showed promise. Her words were like weapons. One young newcomer made a small mistake during a scene and Bennett cut her down in front of the entire crew. "I'm not surprised they dragged you in from whatever little town you came from. But I am surprised they expect you to speak." That girl left the set in tears. Even Joan Crawford once called Bennett the most conceited, self-centered actress ever to walk through a studio gate. And it got even darker behind closed doors. Her own sisters, Joan and Barbara Bennett, claimed that Constance actively tried to sabotage their careers, whispering to studio heads, spreading rumors, blocking their roles. Susan Hayward. She once banned every woman on set from wearing red because that was her color. But that was just the beginning of Susan Hayward's infamous reign of backstage terror. Behind her Academy Award and blazing red hair was a temperament so fierce it left cast and crew walking on eggshells. Hayward was known to explode without warning, hurling props, screaming at directors, and sabotaging entire takes over the smallest perceived slight. It didn't matter how big the production was. If Susan wasn't happy, no one was. During the filming of I Want to Live, the very performance that earned her an Oscar, she reportedly had 3 makeup artists fired for what she called tiny mistakes. Nothing escaped her wrath. Actor Robert Mitchum summed it up best: "Working with Susan Hayward is like working in a cage with a tigress. You never know when she'll spring, but you're damn sure she will." Hayward didn't just clash with men, she reserved a special kind of cruelty for other women, especially supporting actresses. If she saw them as competition, she'd whisper her lines in rehearsal, then shout them during filming to throw off their timing. She made sure no one shone but her. Off-screen, her fury followed her home. During a bitter custody battle with ex-husband Jess Barker, Hayward allegedly told their twin sons that their father didn't care about them. Cutting off contact in a move so emotionally charged, Barker was driven to a dark breaking point. To the public, she was the fiery leading lady. But behind the scenes, Susan Hayward left behind a legacy not just of talent, but of tension, fear, and a trail of broken relationships she scorched along the way. Bette Davis. Bette Davis didn't just dominate the silver screen, she dominated everyone around her too. Her brand of cruelty was legendary. If you crossed her, or worse, if she thought you weren't good enough, you were in for a nightmare. On the set of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Davis took her decades-long feud with Joan Crawford to a whole new level. She didn't just play mind games, she made them physical. During a brutal scene, Davis actually kicked Crawford so hard in the head that stitches were required. The crew was left speechless, but Davis didn't flinch. She even had a Coca-Cola machine hauled onto set, a pointed jab at Crawford, whose late husband had run Pepsi. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. When working with the iconic Marilyn Monroe on All About Eve, Davis showed zero patience for amateurs. She openly mocked Monroe's acting in front of everyone, and when Monroe managed to deliver a great take, Davis would sabotage it by deliberately messing up her own lines, forcing Monroe through exhausting, humiliating retakes. No one was safe, not even established stars. On Where Love Has Gone, Davis targeted Susan Hayward, questioning her every move in front of the entire crew and slicing away at her confidence. And with Joseph Cotton in Beyond the Forest, Davis's contempt was so obvious she would roll her eyes in the middle of his close-ups, forcing the director to plead with her to stop. Bette Davis wore her cruelty like armor, famously declaring, "Until you're known in my profession as a monster, you're not a star." In her mind, Hollywood was a battlefield, and kindness was a weakness she refused to show. Tallulah Bankhead. From the very first day on set, Tallulah Bankhead made it clear no one was safe from her wrath. She turned cruelty into an art form, leaving co-stars, crew members, and even friends trembling in her wake. Bankhead didn't just play favorites, she went after everyone with equal ferocity. Her favorite weapon? Public embarrassment. During rehearsals for Lifeboat, she once stopped everything to sneer at a young actor, declaring in front of the entire cast and crew, "Darling, your acting is so bad it would make a vulture vomit." Tears on set weren't rare when Tallulah was in the room. Her on-set sabotage was the stuff of legend. Bankhead would deliberately move during a colleague's close-up, flub her lines just as another actor was nailing their scene, or suddenly shift her performance style without warning, throwing everyone off and stealing the spotlight every time. Even the unflappable Alfred Hitchcock, who directed her in Lifeboat, noted that Tallulah seemed to relish making things impossible for anyone she felt was beneath her, which by her standards was nearly everyone. Behind the scenes, she was just as ruthless, Crew members recalled her barking impossible demands, only to scold and shame them publicly when they inevitably failed. But Bankhead's cruelty wasn't confined to the studio. Her infamous parties became torture sessions, nights where she would get drunk and roast each guest with biting stories of their most embarrassing moments, leaving even her closest friends humiliated for sport. Vivien Leigh. Before the cameras even started rolling, Vivien Leigh was already making life hell for those around her. On the set of Gone with the Wind, Leigh was infamous for sabotaging scenes that didn't meet her impossibly high standards. If she didn't get what she wanted, she would force everyone, cast and crew alike, through grueling retakes, all to satisfy her perfectionism. But her cruelty didn't end with the director. Fellow actress Olivia de Havilland once revealed that Leigh purposely stepped on her hand during a scene, only to flash a satisfied smile when de Havilland cried out in pain. It was moments like these that left Leigh's co-stars dreading any scene that placed them in her path. Vivien Leigh seemed to reserve her sharpest venom for those she found lacking in talent. During Ship of Fools, she mercilessly mocked Lee Marvin, openly criticizing his technique and ridiculing him in front of the entire cast. If the spotlight wasn't directly on her, Leigh would sabotage takes, determined that no one else would steal a single moment of attention. Not even her husband, the legendary Laurence Olivier, was safe from her manipulations. Leigh was known to flirt openly with other men right in front of Olivier, only to later stage emotional confrontations, accusing him of not loving her enough. Friends whispered that she seemed to enjoy pulling his strings, relishing the chaos she created at home and on set. While some later pointed to Leigh's struggles with mental health as the root of her volatility, those closest to her insisted that much of her harshness was calculated, cruelty delivered with clear intent. Vivien Leigh may have brought unforgettable characters to life on screen, but off-screen, she played her own role as one of Hollywood's most chillingly cruel leading ladies. Paulette Goddard. Paulette Goddard was one of the most dangerous women in Hollywood's golden age. Her weapon wasn't rage, it was quiet, calculated control. Behind that dazzling smile was a master strategist who played Hollywood like a chessboard. Goddard made her way from Ziegfeld girl to A-list star not just with talent, but by manipulating everyone in her path and leaving reputations in ruins. One of her favorite tactics, befriending rival actresses, digging for their secrets, then whispering those secrets to the right studio executives. Careers crumbled while she smiled sweetly from the sidelines. Even in her marriage to Charlie Chaplin, Goddard was said to isolate him from longtime friends and colleagues. According to insiders, she intercepted messages, forgot to pass along vital information, and slowly turned Chaplin against anyone she saw as a threat to her influence. When she competed with Katharine Hepburn for the lead in the Philadelphia Story, damaging rumors about Hepburn suddenly flooded industry circles, painting her as difficult. Nothing was ever confirmed, but many believe Paulette was behind the smear campaign, and off the set she showed a much darker side. Former household staff described her as cruel and punishing. One maid revealed how Goddard dumped out an entire drawer of folded lingerie just because a single item had a crease, then forced the maid to redo everything while she stood nearby, mocking every movement. Loretta Young. Loretta Young's scandals didn't just shock Hollywood. They exposed a level of hypocrisy that still stings to this day. While the public saw her as the picture of Catholic virtue, those who worked with her faced a very different Loretta, a sanctimonious tyrant wielding morality like a weapon. On set, Young enforced a strict swear box, but her morals came with a dose of vindictiveness. She'd fine people she didn't like for the slightest slip, while letting her favorites curse with impunity. The money, it was supposed to go to charity, but insiders whispered that Young often kept the cash for herself. But her real cruelty showed when dealing with younger actresses. Young would invite nervous newcomers to her dressing room, pretending to offer friendly advice, only to sabotage them. Once, she urged a young actress to deliver her lines loudly during a quiet, emotional scene, resulting in the director humiliating the girl for overacting. It was the kind of calculated move that crushed reputations before they even began. Even her own daughter, Judy Lewis, wasn't safe from Loretta's manipulations. Conceived in secret with Clark Gable and passed off to the world as adopted, Judy grew up surrounded by lies. When Judy began to suspect the truth, Loretta responded with emotional manipulation, denying everything and leaving her daughter questioning her very identity for decades. Young's duplicity didn't stop at home. On set, she demanded elaborate special treatment, then preached humility and Christian forgiveness to everyone else. One crew member never forgot the day Loretta had a grip fired simply for bringing the wrong type of water, then topped it off by giving a speech on forgiveness at the wrap party. As one Hollywood contemporary put it, with someone like Bette Davis, you knew exactly where you stood. Loretta would knife you in the back and then pray for your soul. On a scale of 0 to 5, how shocking do you find Loretta Young's hidden hypocrisy and behind-the-scenes cruelty? Comment your number below. We want to hear your take. Veronica Lake. Veronica Lake wasn't just one of the most recognizable faces of the 1940s, she was also one of the most hated stars behind the camera. With her mesmerizing looks and iconic peekaboo hairstyle, audiences loved her, but to her co-stars she was the embodiment of coldness and ruthlessness. Lake wasn't just difficult to work with, she was called the Queen of Cruelty for her habit of exploiting others' weaknesses for fun. She once deliberately wore sky-high heels to mock her co-star Alan Ladd's short stature, leaving him embarrassed and unconfident on the set of This Gun for Hire. She was even more ruthless with other actresses. She ruined their scenes by abruptly changing lines or making awkward gestures behind the camera. When confronted, Lake simply said, "If you can do it, do it. If you can't, leave." Even backstage crew members were targets. She spilled coffee on her costumes, forcing the costume department to redo them, then disappeared for hours in the trailer, leaving the crew waiting in frustration and exhaustion. She knew she was wasting time and money, but she seemed to enjoy it. Despite being a box office queen, no one wanted to work with her anymore. Director Preston Sturgis, who had worked with Lake, bluntly declared, "Life is too short to direct Veronica Lake." And so it was. Her career plummeted, ending in isolation, an inevitable consequence of her cold arrogance and cruelty. Zsa Zsa Gabor. Her fame wasn't about acting chops, it was her sharp tongue and ruthless social games that made her feared in Hollywood circles for decades. Zsa Zsa's cruelty wasn't random. It was cold, deliberate, and centered on one thing: class. She loved throwing people from completely different worlds into the same room just to watch her twisted social experiment unfold. At one notorious dinner, she seated a plumber married to a minor actress right next to a countess, then spent the entire night sneering at their obvious differences, making sure everyone felt awkward and exposed. But it wasn't just guests who suffered. Her household staff lived in constant terror. Former employees recalled humiliating rituals, like standing motionless for endless inspections before parties. One butler even said he was forced to change his uniform 4 times because Zsa Zsa insisted she could smell poverty on the fabric. Her cruelty extended to rivals, especially younger actresses who dared move into her territory. One unlucky neighbor faced relentless harassment. Zsa Zsa called the police with bogus noise complaints, spread vicious rumors about her mental state, and even tried to have her dog taken away through false claims of neglect. When it came to her husbands, Zsa Zsa's games were chillingly strategic. She'd openly flirt with other men in front of her partner, then erupt in scenes of drama whenever they reacted. Multiple ex-husbands later described a pattern of emotional torment, with Gabor tearing down their confidence only to mock their pain afterward. Despite all this, Zsa Zsa Gabor mastered the art of survival. She manipulated the press, surrounded herself with powerful allies, and turned her cruelty into a twisted kind of currency that kept her at the top of Hollywood's social ladder for decades. In her world, being cruel wasn't a flaw, it was a weapon she wielded with deadly precision. June Allyson. To the world, she was the perfect girl next door, sweet, charming, and utterly wholesome. But behind the scenes, June played a far more sinister game. Director David Miller once called her the most skillfully cruel woman I've ever met in the film business, and that's no exaggeration. Allyson mastered the art of keeping up appearances. In public and under the spotlight, she smiled and charmed everyone. But the moment the cameras stopped rolling, she unleashed ruthless verbal attacks, carefully cloaked in privacy to preserve her squeaky clean image. Her favorite targets, competing actresses, especially younger women. She'd offer helpful advice on makeup, costumes, or how to perform, advice that was secretly designed to make them look bad or sabotage their chances with the director. Her cruelty wasn't limited to co-stars. Her husband, actor-director Dick Powell, suffered under her emotional abuse. Friends reported seeing Powell emerge from private talks with June looking utterly shaken, a man weighed down by her sharp words and icy manipulations. What made Allyson truly dangerous was how meticulously she gathered dirt on her rivals, knowing their weaknesses, insecurities, and past missteps, and used it to derail promising careers. Many actresses found their paths blocked after crossing her, though June always maintained plausible deniability. June Allyson's public innocence was a mask, a chilling disguise for one of the most cunning and calculated tormentors of Hollywood's golden age. Ginger Rogers. Behind the charm that made her Fred Astaire's perfect partner, Rogers concealed a cold, calculating side that spared no one. Anyone who didn't meet her impossibly high standards quickly became a target of her deliberate cruelty. Dancers, especially the core members, bore the brunt. Minor missteps turned into public humiliations. Many broke down in tears after Rogers methodically tore apart their technique in front of everyone, making sure the embarrassment was total. Her wrath didn't stop there. Costume and makeup teams lived in constant fear. She would demand impossible last-minute changes, fully aware they couldn't be done in time, then loudly berate the staff for incompetence. One makeup artist even recalled Rogers washing off her finished makeup just before a take, only to complain bitterly to producers about the resulting delays. Even Fred Astaire, the epitome of professionalism and grace, eventually asked to avoid working with Rogers again. Privately, he told friends her harsh treatment of crew and supporting actors had become unbearable. Rogers never saw herself as cruel. She openly claimed, "Mediocrity should be painful. I'm just making sure everyone feels the appropriate amount of pain." Framing her vindictiveness as perfectionism kept her untouchable, but behind the scenes she ruled through fear, a legacy that haunted many long after the cameras stopped rolling. Mary Astor. Astor wasn't just a star, she was a predator of personal secrets, keeping detailed diaries filled not only with her own affairs, but the private confessions of friends and rivals, all carefully saved to use as leverage. When her own scandalous diary leaked during a bitter custody battle, the world saw just a fraction of what she was capable of. Few knew she also kept separate, hidden journals on others. With a practiced smile, she'd draw actresses close, acting like a trusted friend during their weakest moments, only to turn that trust into blackmail. Rumors started swirling around Margaret Sullivan just as Sullivan eyed roles Astor coveted. Whispered gossip about Sullivan's private life spread through Hollywood's grapevine, and while nothing was ever proven, insiders strongly suspected Astor was behind the smear using secrets she had carefully harvested. Astor's cruelty didn't end with fellow stars. Domestic staff suffered too. One maid remembered being forced to rewash dishes 3 times because Astor claimed she could spot invisible spots no one else could see, a petty torture designed to break spirits. Her own daughter, Marilyn Howley, eventually cut ties, haunted by years of emotional control and manipulation. Marilyn later revealed how her mother collected others' weaknesses as obsessively as others collect stamps, then delighted in watching people squirm, hinting she knew their darkest secrets. Jean Tierney. Colleagues called her the most unpredictable and deliberately vicious woman in Hollywood. While later diagnosed with bipolar disorder, those who worked with her insisted her cruelty was often cold and calculated, not just symptoms of illness. Tierney had a sharp eye for weakness. She would pinpoint a co-star's deepest insecurities and then launch public attacks designed to humiliate and break them down. Supporting actresses were her favorite targets. Anyone who threatened to steal the spotlight became a victim of relentless sabotage. Her battles weren't limited to fellow actors. When director Otto Preminger tried to suggest changes on the set of Laura, Tierney fought back with a whisper campaign, accusing him of misconduct with female cast members. The false rumors nearly shut down production and caused chaos on set, but the darkest side of Tierney's cruelty showed in her private life. After contracting rubella during pregnancy, her daughter Daria was born with severe disabilities. Publicly, Tierney maintained the image of a devoted mother, but behind closed doors, She often blamed Daria for ruining her body and career. Reports reveal she sometimes left her daughter with caregivers for months, rarely visiting. Today, some view her behavior through the lens of mental illness, seeking sympathy. But those who knew her best say the cold, ruthless cruelty often came in her calmest moments, proving that much of her torment was no accident. Marlene Dietrich. Behind the glamorous icon and celebrated anti-Nazi activist was a woman feared for her cold, calculated cruelty. Marlene didn't lash out in random fits of anger. She used cruelty like a weapon, methodically breaking down anyone she saw as beneath her. On set, she stopped production to tear into makeup artists, costume designers, and lighting crews, leaving them humiliated and often in tears, all in front of the entire crew. These weren't emotional blow-ups. They were carefully planned power moves to remind everyone who was in control. Her cruelty didn't stop at work. Dietrich's love life was a battlefield where she played emotional games with brutal precision. Lovers recalled how she'd purposely build their dependence, then yank away affection or publicly flirt with others just to inflict emotional pain. When they showed hurt, she mocked them mercilessly for their weakness. Young actresses were prime targets for her venom. On witness for the prosecution, when a fresh-faced actress arrived in a supporting role, Dietrich launched a campaign to ruin her. She sabotaged the newcomer's lighting during shared scenes and spread damaging rumors about her professionalism, all to protect her status and intimidate potential rivals. Even her closest relationships were poisoned by manipulation. With her daughter Maria, Dietrich alternated between overwhelming attention and cold withdrawal the moment Maria showed any independence. Her decades-long marriage to Rudolf Sieber was no sanctuary either. Dietrich flaunted affairs openly, but if Sieber showed interest in other women, she'd erupt in rage. Barbara Stanwyck. Barbara Stanwyck didn't just survive Hollywood's ruthless landscape, she dominated it with calculated ferocity. Born into hardship, Stanwyck carried a fierce zero-sum mentality onto every set. To her, any rising star was a direct threat, and she made sure they felt it. Directors like Cecil B. DeMille warned that she possessed the most precisely vengeful mind in the industry. Stanwyck's cruelty was surgical. She'd pinpoint a rival's weakest point and strike with chilling precision. On Double Indemnity, she discovered her younger co-star's crippling fear of learning lines. Instead of offering support, Stanwyck demanded last-minute script tweaks whenever they shared a scene, knowing those sudden changes would shatter the newcomer's confidence and the performance. She didn't stop there. When directors dared question her creative choices, she launched what insiders called psychological guerrilla warfare. Stanwyck whispered doubts to key cast members, seeded misunderstandings that slowed production, and quietly collected embarrassing secrets to keep anyone from standing against her. Her reputation for ruthless strategy spread quickly. Actors and filmmakers alike learned not to cross her path. In an industry built on glamour, Stanwyck's calculated cruelty cut through the facade, proving that for her, survival meant crushing any hint of competition. Jean Arthur. Her signature voice and girl-next-door charm masked what director Frank Capra bluntly described as the most genuinely difficult human being I ever worked with. Arthur wasn't just demanding, she was obsessive. And when her pursuit of perfection met the chaos of filmmaking, those around her suffered. Her cruelty wasn't loud or flashy, it was precise. If she sensed that a co-star might outshine her, she'd go to work quietly sabotaging them. She'd disrupt their line timing, push for last-minute script rewrites, or insist on wardrobe changes that would throw others off balance. One actor shared that just before a major scene, Arthur accidentally spilled coffee on his costume, forcing a delay and leaving him rattled. But it didn't stop with castmates. Crew members found her impossible. She'd demand lighting setups that simply couldn't be done, and when it didn't work, she'd lash out in front of everyone. Makeup artists weren't spared either. She'd have them redo her face dozens of times, all while throwing out insults about their competence. Jean Arthur's perfectionism wasn't just a personal struggle, it became a weapon. She turned sets into war zones of anxiety, her need for control overpowering any sense of collaboration. Hollywood may have adored her on screen, but off-screen few forgot the pressure and pain she left in her wake. Keanu Reeves. $380 million. That's how much Keanu Reeves is worth. But Hollywood's most unassuming superstar chooses to live like an everyday citizen, blending into the crowd and sidestepping the excess that comes with fame. Keanu is the kind of actor you might catch riding the subway, quietly reading a book, or sharing a sandwich on a city park bench. No bodyguards, no fuss. Instead of splurging on status symbols, he's more likely to show up at an animal shelter looking to adopt a rescue pet. The simple things, not the spotlight, are what matter to him. His down-to-earth lifestyle is even more astonishing given the hardships he's faced. Raised by a single mother after his father walked out, Keanu's early life was marked by instability, constant moves, and the challenge of dyslexia. Later, he endured heartbreak after heartbreak, losing his best friend River Phoenix, the pain of losing a child, and then his partner in a tragic accident. Yet, Keanu never let tragedy turn him cold. If anything, it made him kinder. Even when he struck it big, earning $140 million from the Matrix series, Keanu did something unheard of in Hollywood. He gave away $80 million of it to the behind-the-scenes crews, the people who brought the movies to life. No press releases, no attention-seeking, just quiet generosity. Despite his massive net worth, Keanu still lives in a modest apartment, drives a simple car, and insists he has no use for unnecessary luxury. He's been seen giving up his seat on the subway, waiting in line under the rain for his own events and treating everyone around him with genuine respect. Keanu Reeves stands as living proof that real greatness has nothing to do with possessions. In a world obsessed with wealth and status, he remains grounded, compassionate, and utterly authentic, reminding us that even Hollywood's richest can choose to live simply. Are you curious who's still to come? Some of the most shocking names are waiting at the end. Trust us, these final stars will blow your mind. Keep watching till the last reveal. Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence might sit at the top of Hollywood's earnings pyramid, boasting a staggering net worth of $160 million. However, while other A-list stars surround themselves with luxury cars and jaw-dropping mansions, Jennifer seems determined to keep her feet firmly on the ground. Even after rocketing to fame in The Hunger Games and Silver Linings Playbook, she chose a surprisingly modest lifestyle. Instead of moving into a sprawling estate, Jennifer settled for years in a 400-square-foot Santa Monica condo, barely larger than an average apartment. Neighbors were stunned to learn that the girl next door was actually one of Hollywood's brightest talents. When it came to cars, she wasn't seen behind the wheel of any flashy supercars. In 2012, at the peak of her career, she was still driving a humble Volkswagen EOS, a far cry from the Rolls-Royces and Bentleys that other stars treat as status symbols. It's as if Jennifer channeled the resourceful spirit of Katniss Everdeen into her own life, showing that, even in real life, survival skills can mean living simply. Even after she finally upgraded to a larger home in Los Angeles and a stylish Tribeca condo, Jennifer kept her approach refreshingly normal. She's often spotted browsing thrift stores, shopping at farmers markets, and blending in with everyday crowds, proving she's not interested in Hollywood's endless parade of luxury. While most celebrities chase designer labels, Jennifer prefers comfort and authenticity over couture. Her wardrobe is about feeling good, not showing off. But don't mistake her modesty for stinginess. She's known for her generosity, quietly donating $2 million to a children's hospital in her hometown and supporting everything from arts, education, to equal pay causes. In a world where stars often lose touch with reality, Jennifer Lawrence is living proof that true richness isn't measured by your bank account, but by how you treat others, and by never letting fame change who you are. Do you think these celebrities are truly humble, or are they just faking it to win public sympathy? Yes or no? Drop your verdict in the comments and let the debate begin. Zooey Deschanel. Zooey Deschanel isn't just quirky on camera, she lives it every day. Despite a fortune estimated at $25 million, Zooey refuses to play by the rules of Hollywood excess. While others chase glitz, she finds comfort in the ordinary and turns her back on the typical celebrity lifestyle. Forget the palatial estates and flashy cars. Instead, Zooey settled into a charming, mid-century home in the Hollywood Hills, a far cry from the mega mansions her peers snap up. She paid just $1.69 million, choosing cozy vibes and retro flair over jaw-dropping size and pointless luxury. Step inside and you'll see her personality everywhere. Soft lighting, vintage touches, and a lived-in warmth that feels real, not staged. But her low-key lifestyle doesn't stop at real estate. When her financial records became public during a divorce, the world got a peek at just how careful she really is with her money. Even though she rakes in close to $95,000 every month, Zoe's expenses barely top $22,000, a fraction of what most Hollywood stars burn through. Her credit cards? Paid off, with not a cent of debt in sight. Zoe also shuns high fashion's price tags. She's far more likely to be spotted hunting for one-of-a-kind thrift finds than shopping designer boutiques. "Style isn't when you buy yourself the most expensive things," she once said, making it clear that real flair comes from within, not from a label. Off-screen, Zoe's passion for living authentically extends to her work as an entrepreneur and advocate. She helped launch Hello Giggles, a website focused on uplifting women and spreading positivity, a direct reflection of her own philosophy. She's on a mission to prove that joy comes from little moments and genuine connections, not flashy status symbols. While her character Jess Day might break out in song without warning, the real Zooey Deschanel has crafted a life defined by simplicity, integrity, and self-respect. She's living proof that even in Hollywood you don't have to lose yourself or your common sense to succeed. Elijah Wood. Elijah Wood might be world famous for his legendary role in The Lord of the Rings, but you'd never guess it by looking at the way he lives. Despite amassing a fortune estimated at $20 million, Wood steers clear of the showy mansions and glitzy lifestyles you'd expect from a Hollywood superstar. Instead, Elijah has chosen to plant his roots in Austin, Texas, inside a quaint Victorian home that cost less than $2 million, a bargain compared to the palatial compounds owned by many A-listers. This house isn't about showing off, it's about comfort, character, and staying far away from the non-stop buzz of Los Angeles. While other celebrities fill their garages with luxury sports cars and spend wildly on designer fashion, Elijah's tastes are refreshingly modest. His idea of a splurge, not a diamond watch or a yacht, but top-tier audio equipment for his beloved vinyl collection. An avid music lover, he pours his passion and a little cash into creating the perfect listening experience, not chasing after status symbols. Even his cars reflect his down-to-earth approach. You won't spot Elijah behind the wheel of an exotic ride. Instead, he keeps it practical with an Audi A4 and a Mini Cooper S, choices that would blend into any parking lot. But what really separates Elijah Wood from the typical Hollywood story is his kindness. He gives back, supporting charities and causes that matter to him, and never lets money change who he is. Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis. Christian Bale. Christian Bale is living proof that not every superstar buys into the Hollywood dream. Despite being one of the most respected actors of his generation, with a fortune that could rival some of his blockbuster characters, Bale's real life looks nothing like the billionaire lifestyles he's played on screen. With a net worth soaring well into 9 figures, you might expect him to be cruising around in exotic cars and throwing wild parties in some palatial mansion. But Christian Bale does the exact opposite. In a city obsessed with flashy cars, he drives an old Toyota Tacoma TRD, a rugged pickup truck that's pushing 20 years old. While Gotham's Bruce Wayne roared through the streets in a Lamborghini, Bale is perfectly content behind the wheel of a humble, no-nonsense ride. And when it comes to his home, don't expect secret bat caves or jaw-dropping luxury. Instead of sprawling estates packed with staff and security, Bale lives in an unassuming suburban house that blends right into the neighborhood. It's simple, it's understated, and it's exactly how he likes it. No excessive decor, no hired army of assistants, just a regular home for an extraordinary actor. Even on set, Bale keeps things low-key. While filming Public Enemies, he was offered the kind of luxury villa most stars would jump at, but he turned it down, choosing modest digs over lavish comfort. Whether he's channeling an infamous bank robber or a superhero billionaire, off-screen he's all about a no-frills, down-to-earth life. Halle Berry. She's sitting on a fortune worth $90 million and is an Academy Award. But what if we told you that Halle Berry, one of Hollywood's most celebrated actresses, still lives like she's pinching pennies? Halle is a bargain hunter. Thrift stores, budget racks, clearance sales, these are her playground. She's been spotted digging for deals like someone with nothing to prove, showing that even a multi-millionaire can love the thrill of a good discount. But her humility didn't come from nowhere. Raised by a single mother and forced to grow up fast, Halle learned the value of every dollar early on. And when she chased her acting dreams in New York, things got so tough she ended up in a homeless shelter. That experience didn't break her, it built her. Even today, with Hollywood at her feet, she stays true to that mindset. Take her wedding, for example. While other stars spend millions to impress the world, Halle chose an ultra-private, no-frills ceremony with only the closest people in her life. No headlines, no extravagance, and in an industry obsessed with showing off, Halle Berry is a rare exception. A star who knows that real wealth isn't in what you spend, but in what you remember, preserve, and protect. Julia Roberts. With a jaw-dropping net worth of $140 million, Julia Roberts could be living in a mansion filled with luxury, showered in designer labels and whisked away on private jets at a moment's notice. But what if we told you that the so-called Queen of Hollywood actually lives more like your neighbor next door? Instead of chasing the extravagant life, Julia chooses a path almost no one would expect from a superstar. She's regularly spotted browsing through second-hand shops, searching for hidden gems among racks of vintage clothes, showing the world you don't need a fortune to have style. And forget the fancy supermarkets or personal shoppers. Julia's often seen carrying her own groceries, blending in with everyday shoppers at the local market, reusable bags slung over her shoulder. But it doesn't stop there. Despite all the riches and recognition, she insists her kids grow up just as she did, grounded and grateful. She dresses them in hand-me-downs from friends and teaches them to appreciate the simple things, refusing to let fame spoil their perspective on life. Julia Roberts proves that even in Hollywood, the biggest stars can choose a life of simplicity over luxury. She's living proof that true success isn't about how much you spend, but how real you stay. Never guess that two of Hollywood's brightest stars, Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, are worth a staggering $140 million. Yet, while the world expects them to live like royalty, they deliberately choose a life that looks surprisingly modest, even downright frugal. When it came time to tie the knot, Mila didn't hunt for sparkle in Beverly Hills. Instead, she logged onto Etsy and bought their platinum wedding bands for less than $200, an amount that barely covers dessert at a celebrity hotspot. In a city obsessed with luxury, their simple choice was almost rebellious. But this isn't just about saving on jewelry. Ashton and Mila have drawn a clear line. Wealth shouldn't dictate character. Determined to raise their children with real values, they go out of their way to keep things humble at home. There are no piles of pricey presents under the tree during the holidays. Instead, they encourage their family to donate to charity, turning the spotlight from getting to giving. Their philosophy is summed up with Mila's trademark wit. It's a matter of teaching them from a very early age that, mommy and daddy may have $1, but you're poor. Underneath the humor is a serious message. Just because they've made it big, their children aren't handed an easy ticket to luxury. Hard work, gratitude, and responsibility are non-negotiable in the Kutcher-Kunis household. This approach isn't an act. Both Ashton and Mila remember what it's like to start with nothing. Ashton grew up in small-town Iowa, and Mila's family came to America from Ukraine, fighting for every opportunity. They know the real price of success, and they're determined to make sure their kids do too. While so many celebrity families chase after extravagance, Ashton and Mila are proof you can have fame and fortune and still live like you've got something to prove. For them, true success means staying grounded, prioritizing family, and refusing to let money change what matters most. Daryl Hannah. She could be living in a Hollywood mansion surrounded by private chefs and designer closets. After all, Daryl Hannah is worth over $15 million. But instead of flaunting her wealth, she's chosen a life that looks shockingly modest, even poor by Hollywood standards. She doesn't live in Beverly Hills or Malibu. Instead, she resides in a small home that she personally renovated using salvaged, recycled materials. No designer furniture, no personal staff. just the basics, and a vegetable garden she tends herself. Sometimes she even sells or trades her produce at local farmers markets. Yes, a millionaire actress, bartering like she's living off the grid. Raised in an artistic, well-off family in Chicago, Daryl had every reason to follow the typical celebrity script: fame, fortune, excess. But her path was never ordinary. Struggling with severe shyness and a diagnosis of autism in childhood, her early years were anything but easy. Her mother made an unconventional move, relocating the family to Jamaica, hoping a new environment would help Daryl break free from her isolation. And it worked. By 17, Daryl stepped into the spotlight with a role in The Fury, and just a few years later, she became a sci-fi icon in Blade Runner. She wasn't just another pretty face. She performed her own stunts, showing the world she was tough, talented, and fearless. Her star continued to rise with hits like Splash, Roxanne, Steel Magnolias, and Kill Bill. But unlike her peers, Daryl didn't let stardom swallow her values. While others chased luxury, she leaned into simplicity. And it's not for show. Daryl's commitment to the environment runs deep. She once drank biodiesel on camera just to prove its safety. She's been arrested multiple times, not for scandal, but for standing her ground in climate protests, including the fight against the Keystone XL pipeline. While other stars sign checks from the comfort of a penthouse, Daryl is out in the dirt, marching, planting, building. She doesn't just talk about living humbly, she lives it. Tiffany Haddish. Tiffany Haddish may be Hollywood's funny girl, but when it comes to money, she's all business. Despite a $6 million net worth and a red-hot career, Haddish still lives like she's one step away from being broke. And that's by choice. While other stars blow their first big check on yachts, mansions, and overpriced outfits, Tiffany keeps it brutally real. She's not afraid to mix a thrift store jacket with a designer dress or show up with a knockoff purse and a smile. Status symbols not her thing. Financial freedom. That's the prize she's chasing. Even at the height of her fame, she avoids reckless spending like the plague. Every dollar she earns is accounted for. Why? Because she remembers what it felt like to have nothing. Her past struggles didn't just build character, they built a plan. And Tiffany's not living for the now, she's building for the next generation. Her focus is on smart investing, relentless saving, and long-term security. While others flex for the cameras, she's laying the groundwork for a financial legacy that will outlive the spotlight. She's proof that being rich doesn't mean acting rich. In a town obsessed with appearances, Tiffany Haddish is the rare A-lister who still lives like she can't afford to slip up. Carrie Underwood. With an astonishing net worth of $140 million as of 2024, Carrie Underwood has reached levels of success most only dream of, but you'd never guess it from the way she lives her daily life. While other Hollywood stars flaunt their wealth with mansions and luxury cars, Underwood holds firmly onto her humble roots, maintaining a lifestyle that might shock fans with its simplicity. Long before winning hearts across America, Underwood was just another young girl from a small town with dreams of making it big. At only 14, she almost signed her first record deal, but destiny intervened. Her big break finally arrived when she captured the hearts of millions, winning American Idol in 2004. Quickly, her passionate fan base, known affectionately as the Care Bears, propelled her to superstardom. Over 2 decades, Underwood's talent has cemented her legacy in music, racking up 7 Grammy Awards and selling over 60 million records worldwide. She masterfully blended country and pop genres, broadening her audience and substantially boosting her financial success. Yet despite this extraordinary fame and wealth, Underwood continues living as if she's counting every penny. She remains astonishingly frugal, clipping coupons, doing her own grocery shopping, and preferring homemade meals over extravagant dinners out. When she does decide to treat herself, it's rarely a fancy restaurant. It's usually just grabbing a quick sandwich from Subway. Her down-to-earth habits set her apart dramatically in an industry notorious for extravagance. Underwood openly credits her practical outlook to her upbringing, emphasizing hard work, financial responsibility, and staying grounded. She firmly believes in the value of every dollar earned, choosing to invest and save wisely rather than spend lavishly on fleeting luxuries. This practical approach to life also shapes her family environment. Alongside her husband, former NHL star Mike Fisher, she is committed to raising their children with humility, gratitude, and financial sensibility. Carrie Underwood is more than just a country music icon. She's a rare example in Hollywood, demonstrating that wealth doesn't have to alter your fundamental values. Whether lighting up arenas or quietly shopping with coupons in hand, her authenticity remains her strongest asset, proving fame and fortune can coexist gracefully with simplicity and sincerity. Ashley Greene. Despite amassing a net worth of around $8 million by 2024, Greene chooses to live with a practicality that shocks fans and sets her distinctly apart from many of her Hollywood counterparts. In fact, Greene openly revealed her frugal approach in a 2012 Marie Claire interview, sharing that she intentionally flew economy class instead of indulging in first-class seats. Her reason was straightforward yet strikingly rare among celebrities. She simply felt the luxury wasn't worth the excessive cost. While many of her Hollywood peers splashed out thousands on private jets and first-class indulgences, Greene carefully guarded her earnings for more meaningful and strategic investments. This remarkable financial wisdom isn't something she picked up after success. It's a value deeply embedded since childhood, taught by her father. Her upbringing emphasized saving, careful spending, and long-term planning, shaping her approach to fame and fortune from day one. These financial lessons gave Greene the powerful freedom to be selective, turning down quick paydays in favor of projects that genuinely sparked her passion and advanced her career. Ashley Greene may be globally recognized for her unforgettable role as Alice Cullen in the Twilight Saga, but her real-life story goes far beyond Hollywood glamour. Her career skyrocketed in 2008 when Twilight hit theaters, earning billions worldwide and thrusting Greene into instant stardom. Overnight fame often tempts young actors into extravagant lifestyles filled with luxury and reckless spending, but not Ashley Greene. Instead, she has consistently chosen financial discipline, fully aware that Hollywood's fortunes can be fleeting. Choosing quality over quantity, Greene skillfully navigated roles beyond Twilight, showcasing her range in films like Skateland and The Apparition, and television series such as Pan Am. By thoughtfully managing her finances and carefully curating her acting roles, she secured a lasting place in a notoriously unpredictable industry. Nicole Scherzinger. Nicole Scherzinger might be a pop icon with red carpet credentials, but behind the glitz, she's shockingly thrifty. With $8 million in the bank and global fame under her belt, you'd expect her to live in full diva mode, but Nicole still clips coupons, yes, coupons for her grocery runs. Born into a working-class household, Nicole was raised to stretch every dollar. That upbringing left a mark. While her peers blow fortunes on gourmet chefs and luxury grocery delivery, Scherzinger is spotted in the aisles hunting discounts like she's still budgeting every cent. She's not doing it because she has to, she's doing it because she knows better. Even with her success in music, TV, and theater, she's stayed grounded. No reckless splurges, no oversized mansions, just the same girl who learned early on that fame can fade, but smart money choices last. Nicole Scherzinger's frugal habits are more than quirky, they're strategic. In an industry where fortunes vanish overnight, she's playing the long game. She's not interested in showing off. She's focused on staying stable, prepared, and in control. While other celebrities live like royalty, Nicole Scherzinger lives like she still has something to prove, and that might be her biggest power move yet. Because YouTube will prioritize interactive videos, please comment OK if you find this video interesting. Thank you. Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga may dazzle the world with glittering gowns and jaw-dropping performances, but behind the spotlight, she's shockingly frugal, almost to the point of disbelief. With a staggering net worth of over $330 million, you'd expect Gaga to be dripping in gold, zipping through Hollywood in luxury cars, and surrounded by an army of stylists and private chefs, but the reality? She's clipping coupons, literally. The same woman who owned the Super Bowl halftime stage is just as comfortable bargain hunting in the grocery store aisles. Long before she became Mother Monster, she was Stephanie Germanotta, just another struggling artist living in a cramped New York City apartment for $1,100 a month. And get this, even after she became a global superstar, she kept living in that same modest space. Fame didn't shake her roots. It wasn't until much later, after years of non-stop grinding, that she rewarded herself with a $22.5 million Malibu home. But even then, her spending remained strange. Instead of diamond necklaces or luxury cars, Gaga dropped thousands on an electromagnetic ghost detector. Her reason? She wanted to be sure her new mansion wasn't haunted. Only Gaga. Her manager once admitted he was stunned she hadn't maxed out her cards. Gaga herself confessed, "I spend no money at all. It sounds like a joke until you realize she means it." Underneath the theatrical costumes and world tours is a woman who lives with shocking simplicity. Her choices, odd as they seem, aren't driven by vanity. They're rooted in practicality, family values, and a fierce sense of control over her fortune. Lady Gaga proves that you can be one of the biggest icons on the planet and still live like you're just getting started. Leonardo DiCaprio. He's one of the most bankable actors on the planet, but Leonardo DiCaprio is famous for living far below his means. While his movies rake in billions, and his name is synonymous with Hollywood royalty, DiCaprio's personal lifestyle is shockingly down to earth. Instead of cruising around in flashy sports cars or splurging on private islands like many of his peers, Leo is usually seen driving a humble hybrid or biking through city streets. The man who's walked red carpets around the world is just as comfortable shopping for groceries in a plain t-shirt and baseball cap, blending in with everyday people. Despite a net worth that would make most people dizzy, DiCaprio has always avoided the traps of celebrity excess. He often rents modest apartments, stays in eco-friendly hotels, and is notorious for re-wearing the same suits and shoes even to Hollywood's biggest events. But it's not just about being frugal. For DiCaprio, living simply is a statement. He pours his energy and his fortune into environmental causes, leading global initiatives to fight climate change and protect endangered species. His foundation has given millions to conservation, showing that for him, money is just a tool for greater good, not personal luxury. On screen, DiCaprio dazzles with glitz and glamour, but behind the scenes he's all about substance over flash. In a world obsessed with appearances, Leonardo DiCaprio quietly proves that true wealth comes from what you give back, not what you show off. These stars could buy castles but chose cottages. They could ride in gold-plated limos but hop on subways instead. In a city built on image, they rewrote the script, proving that real success isn't measured in mansions but in meaning. Whether it's Keanu Reeves giving away millions, Julia Roberts buying second-hand, or Lady Gaga clipping coupons, these actors challenge everything we thought we knew about fame. Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran is one of the most recognizable names in music, sitting on a fortune that most people couldn't even dream of. Think $200 million and climbing. His income from touring alone is legendary, with yearly paychecks that sometimes soar above $70 million. In one jaw-dropping stretch from June 2019 to June 2020, Sheeran reportedly pocketed a cool $65 million. Despite this mind-blowing wealth, Ed Sheeran lives nothing like a typical celebrity. While his peers splash out on exotic cars, designer labels, and sprawling mansions, Sheeran keeps his feet firmly on the ground and his wallet tightly closed. What really sets him apart? Ed still uses the same student bank account he opened back when he was just getting started. Instead of splurging, he's admitted to keeping his fortune out of reach, so he doesn't fall into the trap of reckless spending. "If I had all my money in one account, I'd spend all of it," he once confessed. To keep himself in check, he actually gives himself a tiny monthly allowance, about $1,000, and what does he spend it on? Mostly just taxis. His low-key habits go even further. Forget the Hollywood mansions. Ed is known for crashing on friends' couches when he's in town. In a move that stunned fans, he once stayed in actress Courtney Cox's guest room instead of a luxury hotel. It's a far cry from the excess you'd expect from someone at the top of the charts. Ed Sheeran's choice to live simply is more than just thriftiness, it's a statement. In an industry where most people chase bigger, flashier, and more expensive, Sheeran proves you don't have to lose yourself to fame and fortune. Just a guitar, a few close friends, and a student bank account that never needed an upgrade. That's the real Ed Sheeran. They dazzled us with charm, then sliced through careers like silent assassins. From scene-stealing saboteurs to velvet-gloved manipulators, These 20 divas proved that behind every shimmering frame lay claws sharp enough to draw blood. Their reigns of terror are a chilling reminder that Hollywood's golden age glittered only because someone else was left in the dark. But the studio gates still guard deeper secrets. Which other icons ruled by fear yet escaped the headlines? If this journey into vintage venom gripped you, hit that like button, subscribe to Iconic Inside, and ring the bell. More shocking truths are just one reveal away.